Last night, Donald Trump delivered a 4th of July speech at Mount Rushmore, and it was an incredible speech. Just a great speech. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it. But if you haven't, I would actually suggest going and watching his speech before you watch this video, because I'm going to be kind of talking about it and reacting to a lot of the stuff that he was talking about. Now, before the speech, we had an issue where some of the protesters came and they blocked the road. They had 3 vans parked along the road to get into Mount Rushmore. So they were trying to keep everybody from being able to get in and see our president speak on our nation's birthday. I guess the day before our nation's birthday. They slashed the tires of the vans. Some of them, they even took the wheels off so that they couldn't move the vans off the road. I don't know that anything particularly violent happened, which is good. At least I haven't heard reports on it. I've been pretty busy, so I haven't had a chance to look into it too much. But anyways, the Trump speech was incredible. And the one thing that I really took away from this speech was that Donald Trump understands America. He knows the history, he knows the values, he knows the traditions, and I cannot remember the last time we have had a president that has stood up for the core values and traditions of America, not the modernist view of America, but the traditions, the founding principles. And Trump made it abundantly clear that not only does he understand the values of the values and meanings of the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, all the founding documents. He understands all that, but he also understands the history and the value of everything that is entailed in that. And one thing that says to me is that, one thing that I've noticed, Donald Trump seems to be the death of cynicism, which is another amazing, amazing thing. You know, we've seen our culture has devolved into this cynical, and it's all leftism. Leftism is built on cynicism. It's built on deconstruction. It's about looking at the negative side of everything and putting those under a microscope, magnifying them, and never giving credence to the positive things that went on. Nothing is ever going to be perfect. There's always going to be mistakes. There's always going to be room to grow. And Trump understands that, and so he really takes it to the historical cynics, the people who only look at the negative side of the American founding, the American march towards modernity, which modernity itself has been a bit of a it's kind of decayed the American spirit quite a bit, and the American triumphantalism and traditions and values, all of that. So one of the things, let's talk about some of the things that he talked about. He rallied against cancel culture, and he seems to have a very clear understanding of the totalitarian nature of what cancel culture means, how it runs antithetical to the Bill of Rights and our First Amendment, our ability to speak our minds freely and without fear of having to be, having to face consequences just for speaking your mind and your belief structure. So he seems to understand that. He understands the totalitarian nature of it. Now, one of the things that I kind of, speculatively thought on as I was listening to the speech was, and this was something that we saw actually from more so the Christian right back in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We kind of shifted our view from freedom into thinking that anything objectionable should be illegal. Anything morally wrong should be illegal. And we saw that quite a bit, the war on drugs, a lot of the things that a lot of libertarians speak out against, kind of actually, we have to look at our own side of the aisle and see where we've made mistakes too. And the Christian right of the late 20th century, 70s, 80s, and 90s, they were very much on board with the if something's bad, make it illegal. And you can see how cancel culture and the modern leftist ideology actually stems from that a little bit. It's just that now it's gone through its natural progression from should things be illegal to should ideas and thoughts and speech be illegal. So I think we need to understand, look at that and understand how cancel culture reflects also just on the nature of how we react to good versus evil and how we wrap that up into our legal system. Just a little offshoot idea that I was thinking about while I was watching the speech. So let's see. Another thing that Trump talks about is that he talks about the history of this nation, and it's abundantly clear why so many hate him, because he looks at the founding of our nation with great reverence He understands that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. And you see a lot of the media, a lot of the pop culture, a lot of where we are today. People don't acknowledge that. They think that this stuff was just there for them. It was a playground that just magically appeared, and it's just for them to run around and play on. They don't understand that playground needs maintenance. It needs to be, there are certain things you have to take care of. And instead, they just want to let it all go to pot because at the end of the day, the traditional moralism of the American foundation, the virtues that are necessary to uphold it, are a buzzkill to them. They're hedonistic, they're nihilistic. They look at everything as in the moment. How can I have fun? How can I enjoy this? It's the live every day as if it was your last. Well, it's likely not going to be your last, and you have to uphold the world, or the world that you live in, the nation that you live in, so that you can keep continuing to live on with value to your life. So, let's see some of the other things. He did talk about social justice, and it's kind of a proud moment because just a few days ago I talked about how social justice is the death of justice. And Trump made that exact same speech. So he really does understand what is, what's going on. He understands the core nature of things. And that's what a lot of people gloss over today is the core, the inherent being of certain ideas, certain thoughts, certain values, where they stem from. And in order to understand that, you have to understand the history, which is exactly why these leftist Marxists, they want to destroy our history, so that we lose the contextualization of our values. It's no good. It's no good. He understands the concepts of national sovereignty. He talked about building the wall. He talked about how America has to come first. He talks about, it's that idea. Tim Pool talks about this all the time. If you're on a plane and you hit turbulence and the masks drop down, they tell you to secure your own mask before you secure the masks of others. It's the same concept. If we are unable to look out for ourselves, we will not be able to look out for other people, other countries, other people in the world. He understands that. He talked about how every child born and unborn is made in the image of God. And it's so funny because, coming up, we never really thought that Trump was some godly Christian man. But I will tell you, he has been he has been the greatest leader on keeping the Christian tradition and the Christian values in our nation. Because as much as we have freedom of religion, and we don't have an established state religion, our de facto religion, our founding principles, are based on a Judeo-Christian worldview, really a Christian worldview, not even Judeo. It really is based on a Christian worldview, and you can't give up those values just because maybe other people don't subscribe to it or they have their own religion. They're still living in a country that does have Judeo-Christian values, Christian background, Christian upbringing, and they have to adapt to our world. You come to America, you assimilate to our culture. I wouldn't go to Japan and start criticizing them and telling them they need to be this and that. And I think Japan understands that because you look at their immigration policies, it's damn near impossible to immigrate to Japan. But he talked about every child born and unborn. He's been fighting. He's the only president. I mean, even Ronald Reagan didn't do this. Took part in the March for Life. And so I know there's been all kinds of memes from the past where Trump saying things like, "Oh, I would run as a Republican because they'd be the easiest to manipulate and this and that." It's like, okay, let me give you that premise. Let me give you the premise that Trump is just manipulating the right to give him power and this and that. At the end of the day, he's using that power to accomplish goals we want. He's still fighting for us, and I don't think that. First of all, that quote was from like the 1990s, and I think Trump has had something of a rebirth in the spirit of this nation. And as a Christian, I don't believe that he was always. I mean, you look at his past; he was a billionaire playboy. I don't think his past really does project him as somebody who's lived a long Christian life. But the way that he has fought for Christian values, the way that he has pushed forward the traditionalism of America, I don't believe it's fake. I do believe that he had his own sort of great awakening. And I think that is now being pushed down, or not pushed down, handed down to the people. And we are seeing sort of this great awakening of the American spirit and what it means to be American, what this country means, what the founding was. Trump understands that America itself is a miracle. And I mean, think about it. Throughout world history, nations, nation states, whatever the structures were, they were formed on, first of all, mostly ethnic lines. They were very tribalistic, and there were power structures that always fed into the power structures. America was this great experiment of self-governance, individualism, individual liberty, and it's mind-boggling that not only were the founding fathers able to beat the British, the greatest military in the history of the world at that time, they were able to beat them as just ragtag militiamen. That itself is a miracle. But when they all came together in the Continental Congress, when they all came together after beating the British, and they designed a system that was not self-serving to themselves, that was for the people, everything was done selflessly. I mean, I can't say everything. I mean, I don't know every conversation that happened at the Continental Congress and in Philadelphia and everything that happened, but the general idea was that it was for the people. It was not to be consumed by tyranny and even their own tyranny. So the fact that we had 56 people go and sign that Declaration of Independence, and they were all of the mind that a new nation founded on freedom and liberty could thrive, that it wasn't corrupted or corruptible in its founding process. Because once you corrupt the founding, everything from the future is going to be corrupt as well. So the fact that we were founded by such incorruptible people, it's mind-boggling, the odds of that actually happening and of that actually being successful. It's a miracle. I mean, it's got to be Providence. It's got to be Providence. I can't see it any other way. So, he talked about, Trump also talked about, and when he was talking about cancel culture, that this nation was founded on the idea of free and open debate, not speech codes. So, I mean, the guy just gets it. The man gets it. And I think when all is said and done, he is going to deserve a place up on Mount Rushmore. I think Trump is quite possibly he's definitely, without a doubt, the best president since Theodore Roosevelt. I think when all is said and done, he gets 4 more years. He's able to really further drain the swamp, because we have only seen the beginnings of him draining the swamp. You have to understand, he was held back from being able to accomplish one of his core promises to his electorate of draining the swamp through the Russian investigation, through the Ukrainian hoax. 3.5 years of his first 4, he's only started. He was held back from being able to do anything because it would have looked like obstruction of justice if he started firing these deep state actors. But now that a lot of his pathways are cleared up, we're already starting to see the fall. I mean, we've seen the fall of Ghislaine Maxwell. That's going to lead to a lot of stuff. Apparently, Ghislaine Maxwell she's ready to start talking. She is going to try to cut herself a deal. So I think we're going to see a lot of swamp creatures that were wrapped up in that Jeffrey Epstein pedophile ring come down. And from there, it's just going to be dominoes. It's just going to be dominoes. And Trump has been setting up the dominoes for the first 4 years. Him and his team, General Michael Flynn is going to be hugely instrumental in this. So I can't wait to see how all this is going to end up playing out. But the man gets it. He understands the core nature, the core traditions of America, and he's trying to hit the reset button. All of the bastardizations of democracy and freedom that we've encountered through modernity. He's trying to set the reset button on that. Take us back to where we can achieve. We have been so bogged down by rules, regulations, taxes, all kinds of entanglements that encumber us from actually living freely, being able to reach our potential. And Trump is clearing up that spider web. And it's a vast, vast spider web. So, I mean, the speech was amazing. Trump's presidency so far has been amazing. His message, his belief structure, his core understanding of American values. We got to get this man reelected in November. So let's see. What were some of the other things that he talked about? Um, he talked about how slavery was a plague over the not just America. See, that's what the leftists always do. They like to speak of slavery as if it was a uniquely American thing, but that's not true. Slavery plagued humanity for thousands and thousands of years before the founding. It was through the principles of the founding that we were able to, over time, evolve our mindset into understanding the evils of slavery. And we were able to do away with it. But at the founding, I've said this in several other videos, we were so ahead of the marketplace of ideas at that time. The people, because we were still in that, the world was still in that tribalist mode. I mean, you can even see that just among similar, races. You'd see how the Irish and the British, how the Irish and the Anglos, the sort of tribalism between there, how the Irish were so set upon by the more well-to-do British. So that sort of tribalism, even if it isn't, it's not all racially motivated. And that's what I think a lot of people confuse racism with tribalism. And America was that idea that tried to put aside that tribalism so that people can live together. And the whole fomenting of racial, the racial vigor, the racism problem, the identitarian politics, it's a reset button on all of that. Because you can use tribalism as a tool to pit people against each other. And if the ideas of America are fully formed, then they lose that leverage over us. And Trump understands that. Trump knows that. That's why they call him a racist. That's why they go so hard about pitting people against him on those tribal lines, is because he does not play by those tribal rules. He never has. I mean, he's been in the public eye for 50 years? Nobody ever called him a racist. Hell, he has plaques and accommodations from the NAACP. He's always been somebody that has championed equality in America. But then all of a sudden he becomes president and he's a racist because he's able to call out certain things about, they like to point out he called Mexicans rapists. He wasn't talking about all Mexicans. He was talking about the ones that were crossing the borders because he knows that the people who are taking people across the border are cartel-run coyotes who make a living off of human trafficking. And he knows that, according to Amnesty International, 60 to 80% of the women and girls as young as 12 are raped and sexually assaulted coming over that border. So he wasn't calling Mexicans racist. He was calling the people that run illegal human trafficking rings to get these people across the border rapists, because they are. But that wasn't something that was supposed to be projected over the whole of Mexican people and Mexican culture. And anybody with two brain cells to rub together understands that concept. But we are gaslighted into believing that Donald Trump is racist, and because he's able to call out certain people from different groups that are undermining the rest of their culture, the rest of their people, through evil acts. He's able to call that out. And the media, because they want to be able to use that racial dividing line, because they want to be able to use that as a wedge against between people in society to create coalitions that they can form monolithic coalitions out of and pit against each other for their own progression of power. Sorry, I was running a little hot on that one and I kind of lost where I was going. But either way, that's what they want to do. They want to undermine Trump because he represents the people coming together, and that is not what the left represents. It was amazing how Trump talked about all the historical figures. He showed his understanding of what the people who he understood the giants of which shoulders he's standing upon, of which he has been able to make his life out of, become that rich billionaire playboy. He knows that was only made possible through the efforts and the sacrifices of the people that came before us. He truly understands that he is standing on the shoulders of giants as he himself becomes a giant. He is becoming one of those giants, and I think by the time all is said and done, he's gonna deserve a place on Mount Rushmore. I really do think he will. And this is one of the greatest things, one of the greatest pushbacks. Trump understands the cultural war like no one else on the right does. No other Republicans do. In fact, if it wasn't for Trump, the Republicans would still be seeding the culture war. They'd still be this apologetic, spineless, weak-willed, bend-the-knee sort of just whisperers of the American ideals, but without the backbone to stand for it. Trump has the backbone to stand for it, and he showed that outright with See, he's going to be signing an executive order creating a what is he calling it? The Guard of National Heroes. So he's going to create a park that is just all monuments to national heroes. And I don't think it's just going to be, I think it's going to be people like the Wright brothers. It's going to be people like Wild Bill Hickok. These are people that he mentioned in his speech. Muhammad Ali. The people that further progress the American values, the American mythos, the American spirit. He talked about how we conquered the Wild West and built the Transcontinental Railroad. Which I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen the TV show Hell on Wheels. It was an AMC show that ran for 5 seasons. It was about the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. One of the greatest shows ever made. Cullen Bohannon, just one of the best characters ever. Sorry, I know that's a tangent, but if you guys haven't seen that show, you should definitely check it out. It's amazing. But Trump understands that history, and he's going to sign a executive order creating the National Guard of American Heroes, and I want to be there at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for it. I want to be there. I am definitely going to go see that park. I am going to document it. I'm going to take pictures, and I might even shed a tear or two. Because having a president that just gets it this way, we are so lucky. We are so lucky, and we can't get so caught up in the media back and forth, the squabbling, the left and right, all of the negativity, the cynicism. We have to understand that Trump is an assault on the cynicism of leftist postmodernism. And it's invigorating. It's invigorating. I mean, I've always been a pro-America. I guess not always. I had my younger rebellious punk rock days when I was a kid. But throughout my adult life, I've always been conservative and considered myself patriotic, but never to the degree in which Trump has made me. I mean, since Trump came about, he has really just instilled that national fervor, that national vigor, that national vitality, that understanding of the spirit of America. And, it's injected in me now. And I think it's been injected in millions of people nationwide. And it is so good to see. It is so refreshing. It's so good to see people stand up, waving flags, loving this country, loving what it stands for, loving the progress we've made, and not just sitting there constantly deconstructing it, trying to find out ways to take digs at it, trying to find out how are we racist, how are we this, how are we sexist, how are we bigoted. Man, get over that shit. Most of us are past that. So Trump has really flipped the narrative on his head, and you can see that is why all of these leftist postmodernists that make their living, aggregate their power through division. That's why they hate Trump. You also have a lot of these people that are super rich, the billionaires, all the rich, all the corporatists. They all hate Trump. Why? Because they're internationalists. They have vested interests in fucking China, communist China. And so they see Trump now calling out China, saying we need to take away their influence on the world stage, which means take away a lot of their manufacturing, bring manufacturing back to America, take it out of China. It's going to cost these people billions of dollars. Well, tough shit. You've made your money selling out America. You deserve to lose it. And Trump, and there's so many reasons why they attack Trump, and none of them are for what. Well, I'm trying to figure it out because it is for what Trump stands for, but it's because what Trump stands for, being somebody who is so pro-America, so America first, it's against their own personal individual interests. But they try to spread the message. They lie about him in order to spread that message, because they know that if they spoke honestly about why they hate Trump, America would realize that everybody against Trump, or everybody pitting people against Trump, are the assholes. They are the ones that are self-interested. They are the ones that do not care about, Main Street, us, the little guy. So, I just think what Trump is doing, he's resurrecting America, and it's amazing. So he also, one of the things he also talks about, he mentioned the American adventure, and that is so tied into the spirit of America. America is the place where people are supposed to be able to come to America. You set out on your own. I don't really like the term pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Some people don't have boots to pull themselves up by. Yeah, well, make your own damn boots. That's the whole point of America, is you get to choose your own adventure. It's not prescribed to you. You look at these leftists, these communist countries, and what they did. They took people who, maybe worked in factories or did this, and they said, now you're working in the field, now you're a farmer. And they didn't know how to farm, so then the country starved. Food shortages. People are not able to choose their own adventure. In America, you can be anything you want. That doesn't mean you're going to succeed at it. You might fail, because the freedom to succeed means the freedom to fail. So we as people have a responsibility to understand what our strengths and weaknesses are and play to them. Make our living out of that. But yeah, he understands the idea of the American adventure, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so enamored with the history of the Wild West. It is because nothing embodies the spirit of the American adventure like our westward expansion. It was an amazing. It's one of my favorite times in American history. I love westerns. I love studying how we expanded the nation westward. They called it Manifest Destiny. But it's true, and you had all these protesters that were protesting, they were protesting for Native Americans and things like this. And look, you can be sympathetic towards what the Native Americans went through, but you also have to understand the reality of it. The Native Americans, they battled each other, they stole land from each other, they were tribal. In fact, they were nomadic. They didn't even really have established lands. They didn't have an established government. They also partook in things like slavery. They were not some great peaceful evolved people. That's a myth. People think of the natives as these peaceful horseback riding cultures that were one with the land. And sure, maybe there were some elements of that, but let me put it this way: they didn't even have tamed horses before the West. The colonials got here, the British, the Anglos, whoever it was, because we had people from all over Europe coming over. They didn't even have the wheel back then. So you can't honestly say, when you look at the goodness of America, what we have done, what we have put forth in this world, the peace and prosperity that we have brought not just to us, but worldwide. You can't say that the world would be better off without America, had America not gone out and conquered the West, conquered the lands. We are a conquering people. I mean, humanity the human nature is to conquer. We see that all throughout our history. And I think part of the malaise and the boredom that we have as a culture now is there's nothing left to conquer, which is also why I think Trump realizes that. I think he understands that. And that's why he even talked about planting a flag in Mars. To Trump, he understands the need for more to explore, more to conquer. And the only way to do that is space. That's why we've now seen Trump create the Space Force. We've seen... We see. I talked about it in another video recently. They're talking about putting together a public report on UFO findings and what we're gonna do from there. So I think Trump is really dedicated to bringing us into a space age where we have more to explore, we have more purpose, we have more to see. Anyways, guys, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to cover from his speech. I mean, it was just such an amazing speech that you can see the pride that he takes in this nation, the pride that he takes in our founding, our understanding, our ideals. And it's so refreshing to hear people talk about that way, especially after 8 years of Obama, where it was all about what we can do better and fundamentally transforming America. We don't need to fundamentally transform America. We need to live up to what America was supposed to be. Anyways, if you haven't seen the speech, go check it out. It was incredible. And I hope all of you guys have a great 4th of July. Stay safe out there, don't party too hard. Don't blow your fingers off with fireworks, because we are celebrating America today, and I can't wait to get out there, have some fun, and celebrate this amazing, amazing nation. This God-given nation, this miracle of a country. So happy 4th of July to all of you guys, and I will see you back here on Monday.